There are so many aspects to joy, so many qualities of joy and conditions and practices that support joy, mudita. And it is not a frivolous topic. Susan was saying yesterday, we want to be a cooling balm in this world today. And mudita is a heart-opening practice. So I think there's a lot of room for us to be creative and playful in how we explore this topic. And I'm really, really looking forward to that. There are two aspects of joy that that were percolating in my head. Choosing joy, allowing joy. And with these two, there are lots of currents of appreciation and gratitude. Is there anyone here who wishes that we would just ignore joy? Skip over it? Skip over joy in our lives, move on to something else, some other investigation? No, I don't think so. I think we want to have as much joy as we can have, or maybe endure. I'm often convinced that my friend Christine has more than her fair share of joy. So this probably isn't true. But for now, okay, let's assume that it is true, because there are certain people we know who almost beam out joy. Lee was talking about Desmond Tutu, the Dalai Lama, Thich Nhat Hanh, these great spiritual leaders that beam joy. And there are regular, ordinary folks who beam joy too. How do they do that? How can I do that? Remember what Susan Morgan said about joy? It takes a deliberate intention to see and feel into moments of joy, joyful moments. Can we make that deliberate choice to savor, to notice the joyful moments? Can we notice the sprigs of joy that are in our lives? We are learning to notice and appreciate the seemingly ordinary moments too. In our meditation practice, in our mindfulness practice, we are sensitizing ourselves to life, the ordinary moments. Too precious not to notice, right? By purposefully illuminating joy, we are bringing the wholesome around. We are feeding the heart good food and helping the heart to lighten and brighten. Illuminating joy is not a denial of the difficult things we confront in our lives. Cultivating joy as a way of being, excuse me, in the midst of all conditions and all events of our life. That is an invitation to transform our understanding of joy. Experiencing it not just as a state, but as a place where we can rest our hearts. It is noticing moments of joy because we care enough to notice. Noticing the so-called ordinary moments because we care enough to notice. And we don't experience joy by contemplating joyful events that will come into the future. We experience by choosing joy now. It's here. It's in our presence. It's on your seat, in your seat. We can allow this. We can choose this. And if we can't right now, no problem. We're just exploring. We have these practices that help to sensitize us to the richness of all experiences. And mudita is an open heart. And you know, when we invite the benefactor or a dear friend or a beloved pet or a spiritual wise elder, beneficial presence, we are deliberately bringing forward moments of delight. Deliberately. And the invitation, the instruction is, can we allow that? Can we savor the joy or delight? Someone who took delight in you just because you are who you are, or something that gives you delight, just to think about it. Yeah, the instruction is noticing and allowing the felt sense of the experience to reverberate, to rise up in you, maybe sing in you or dance in you or just twinkle in you a little bit, or maybe quiet in you. And if none of it happens, not a problem. We are just exploring. Brene Brown is a teacher, a researcher, an educator. She's done a lot of research on feelings of vulnerability, shame, bravery, courage. And she has written and researched joy. She said that she came to recognize that one of the most difficult feelings for us to feel, terrifying feelings for us to feel, is joy. And that surprised her. And I thought, wow, that kind of surprised me too. Is that true? Is it true for me? Is joy difficult to feel? And she said one of the ways that we deal with our vulnerability, because when we feel joy, we come face to face with vulnerability. We feel that. And we human creatures are vulnerable, and we know that, we're aware of that. And a lot of times it frightens us. One of the ways she said we deal with our frightened selves is by trying to cut vulnerability off trying to cut it off by cutting off our joy. We beat vulnerability to the punch. And she said this is a strategy we use to feel safe. And maybe, well, no, when we feel safe in this way, we are cutting off a lot of joy. We are cutting off a lot of life. Vulnerability does not have to be the impediment. In fact, Brene Brown says vulnerability is the birthplace of love, belonging, joy, and creativity. If we want greater clarity or purpose or a deeper, more meaningful spiritual life, vulnerability is the path. Parents, grandparents, watch over their children, their beloved children or grandchildren as they sleep and as they start to marvel at their lives and wonder at the incredibleness of their beings. Sometimes there is often that troubled thought like, oh, danger could happen. Something bad could happen. And before we know it, joy vanishes. I met a woman on this last retreat, and we were actually roommates. We made a decision, we kind of, we hit it up, and we said that we would speak to each other after the retreat when we break our noble silence. She was probably in her late 70s. We talked about a lot of things, and joy was one of them. And she said, Jaye, I'll tell you about my relationship with joy, but I need to tell you something very sad first. 20 years ago, she lost her only child, her son. And she said, I knew I would never feel joy again. But that isn't true. I feel, she said, joy every day. And she said she had so much gratitude for these practices. She chose joy, even with this tremendous grief. Joy and sadness are just the opposite sides of the same coin, right? I'm going to close with a reflection by Mark Nepo from Awakening. To hold nothing back. For 49 years, I have found that hesitation, more than anything, has been the invisible hitch that has kept me from joy. I've found that the moment, with all its meaning, often moves on by the time I've reconsidered whether or not to enter it. I am not saying we should always be impulsive. More to the point, I have discovered again and again that I usually know what I need to do, but just deny it. And in this small hesitation, this small resistance to enter what is real, this makes life neutral or out of reach. To hold nothing back in every breath means staying committed to letting whatever we experience making its way in, and letting whatever is in make its way out. Holding nothing back means holding the intention to be an open vessel. He's telling us to reflect on living life as an opening vessel, welcoming, allowing. We shared this last week Buddha taught, live in joy, in love, even among those who hate. Live in joy, in health, even among the afflicted. Live in joy, in peace, even among the troubled. He's instructing us to choose joy. Too precious not to choose. Too precious not to allow. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you.